What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the iPhone 6 Plus to the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 5S. Now I understand it can be a difficult choice when deciding between these phones. For some, it may not be a good idea to spend the extra $100, extra $200 to get the 6 or 6 Plus. However, in this video I'm going to go over all of the differences between these devices so you guys can make an informed decision which device is for you. The biggest and best Apple has to offer is the iPhone 6 Plus. It's the largest and most expensive phone they sell. After that comes the iPhone 6, which is a little happy medium in between the 5S and iPhone 6 Plus, and then the iPhone 5S. Now, just because these new phones came out doesn't mean they're incredibly better than the 5S. In this video, I want to show you guys that the 5S is still a very capable phone, but if you guys just have that extra little bit of cash, it's worth shelling out for a 6 or 6 Plus, but it's not mandatory. So let's get started. So there are several key factors you want to look at when deciding between these phones. For one, price. That's going to be a really big one for most people. 2 is functionality. What can one do that the other can't? And 3 is actual usability. And you'll notice that there's quite a size difference between these models, and I'll go into depth on that, how it is actually using them on a day-to-day basis. So first things first, let's talk about price. So the iPhone 5S starts out at $549 at 16GB and $599 at 32. I found it interesting, they're no longer making a 64GB option, probably to sway people over to the iPhone 6. The regular 6 starts at $649 with 16GB, goes up to 64 and 749, and then 849 at 128. And 128 is a little bit much, you know, not many people are going to even be looking at that option since iCloud Drive exists. And the 6 Plus starts at 749 at 16, 849 at 64, and 949 at 128. So essentially we're looking at a $100 difference between every device. So between the 5S and 6 Plus, there's a $200 difference. The real question is that $100 difference worth it? And that's what we're going to find out in this video. All of these displays are gorgeous. You can't go wrong with any of them. However, Apple has said that the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus display is the most advanced they have ever made. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with any of them, but these are just so beautiful. The colors are darker, richer. As you guys can see, the contrast ratio is higher on both the 6 and 6 Plus. The iPhone 6 features the highest pixel density out of all of these three phones. It has a 401 pixel per inch density, which is very noticeable when actually zooming in on very tiny text or looking at photos. You'll notice that the screen is a lot crisper. That's not to say the other ones aren't good. However, the iPhone 6 Plus is just that much better. When you first pick up the iPhone 5S, you'll notice it is a very comfortable phone to hold. It has ridges around the edges. It's not rounded. That's not to say rounded isn't good. It's just different. And this is the most comfortable phone to hold out of all of them. It just fits in the palm of your hand perfectly no matter what your hand size, and you could reach all areas of the screen, and I'll go into that in detail. But in terms of actual design, it's a very solid design. It'll be a classic. It'll always look good. So in terms of comfort, this is the one that's easiest to hold and most comfortable to use. So the iPhone 5S will come in the following 3 colors: space gray, gold, and silver. I'm sure all of you guys know the design. This was the first iPhone to introduce gold color to the lineup, so Apple's taken pride in that. And the general design, you know, like I said, it's going to be a classic always. It looks great. It's a small phone, but it's very capable. Both the 6 and 6 Plus will also come in the same 3 colors, and it features a rounded design. So the screen is flush. It goes right into the curve of the phone. So it's a very comfortable phone to hold in a different way. It's just one that I'd be more worried about dropping. All 3 phones do have Apple's fingerprint recognizing Touch ID sensor. And the 6 Plus does feature the same design as the 6, you know, just a little blown up. So it does have a larger display at 5.5 inches versus 4.7. And when it comes to using the damn thing, it's a very difficult thing to do with one hand. An interesting thing that I discovered after using the 6 Plus for, I'd say, about a few days, and then going back to an iPhone 4S or even an iPhone 5, I'm like, what the heck? Why is this so tiny? It just, my brain warped to the point where that was normal for me, whereas the iPhone 4S or iPhone 5 just had a tiny display. And if you'll notice, when I put the 6 Plus sideways, it has its own special mode for actually using it. It's almost iPad-esque. So it's cool because several applications, when you turn them on their side, they'll give you more room to see stuff. And, you know, the actual springboard, you can rotate sideways. So as you guys can see, usability-wise, the 5S, you can actually reach all areas of the screen with your thumb. And that's very convenient for one-handed use. On the regular 6, it's not terrible. You know, you can still reach most of the display, just it's very hard. It's a stretch reaching the messages button for me with my, you know, average sized hand, but people with larger hands, they'll find it easy. Fortunately, there exists this mode where you can double tap the Touch ID sensor and it brings the whole screen down where you can reach it. So these aren't too far off. It is a welcome increase in size for the 6, just a little bit right there. So I do appreciate it. Now the 6 Plus, you really got to be looking for that screen size in order to want it. You know, it's not something that everybody's going to want, but it is a very welcome change. With the iPhone 6 Plus, one-handed use becomes a chore. I constantly get cramps in my hands because I just refuse to use it with both hands. Sometimes I just want to use my phone with one hand, and with the 6 Plus, it's really hard. So take that into consideration. Reaching most of the screen on the 6 Plus is going to be really hard without two hands. Unfortunately, the Touch ID thing isn't that useful. I mean, it's there, but it's not optimized well for all of the applications. So take into consideration with the 6 Plus, you're going to be using it with two hands most of the time. And between the 5S, that's a pretty big difference. The 6 Plus does give you so much more room for movies and games. It's almost like an iPad. I mean, I don't even use my iPad anymore because I have the 6 Plus, an unintentional side effect, I guess, of owning the 6 Plus. In a way, I think Apple may even be regretting not releasing the 6 Plus earlier because current sales are crazy. It's outselling the iPhone 6 by at least 3 times. People really wanted a larger iPhone, and thanks to the Galaxy Note, Apple gave it to us. They saw how popular that device was, and as a result, we have this larger device that a lot of people are going to like, but not everybody needs. When it comes to raw processing power, there's not that big of a difference between these devices. The iPhone 6 and 6 Plus both have the same processors. I'm going to show you the actual numbers by running a Geekbench. So Apple tells us the new A8 chip in the 6 and 6 Plus is 25% faster than the one in the 5S. Graphical improvement is at 50% faster. So, you know, there's not that big of a difference. If you're deciding between these just based on speed, it wouldn't really be smart to go from the 5S to the 6 to get that little 25% increase. So when it comes to deciding between these based on raw processing power, the 5S is about 20% slower than these guys. These numbers, as you guys can see, they're not that far off from each other. I was surprised. The 5S is a very capable phone. So now I just want to do a little startup test. This is a very accurate way of deciding speed, but it's a fun little test I like to do between these devices. And in terms of actual usability, unless you're running graphical, applications, games, you're not going to notice a big difference between the 5S and 6 and 6 Plus because most of the time you're not even going to be anywhere near the limit of the CPU to actually see a difference. So let's go ahead and run this startup test. Now, it's hard for me to imagine that the 5S would ever be a slow phone because when it was released last year, it was crazy. I mean, that thing was so much faster than the previous 5, and now the 6 Plus, it's hard to improve upon something that's already good. So between these devices, speed shouldn't really be a big factor when deciding between them. It should be the actual features. Anyways, as we see, the iPhone 5S is actually the very first one to boot, and it's usable a full maybe 5 seconds before the other devices, and they'll obviously start up at about the same time because they do have the same processor powering them. So I found it interesting. The 5S, maybe it's because it has less stuff on it, but the 5S does boot faster than the other devices. There's literally no difference in between launching applications on these devices unless it's a very big application. Then you might see a little bit of an improvement on the 6 and 6 Plus, but generally usability is about the same on all of these. The iPhone 6 Plus has room to accommodate a larger battery, so it does have better battery life. Between the iPhone 5S and iPhone 6, there's about a 10 to 15% increase. Between the 6 and 6 Plus, there's about a 30% increase. So that's a very important factor when deciding between these phones. Camera is one of the areas where every single one of these phones is different. So the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus have the same camera except for one thing, and that's optical image stabilization. The 6 Plus only has it, and it's an amazing feature. I'll show you in the next clip that videos are going to be much steadier. You're going to see less shake when filming on the 6 Plus, whereas on the 6 it uses digital image stabilization. You'll see a little bit more shake. Now in the following clips, I'm purposefully trying to shake the camera. However, on the 6 Plus, it's just hard to see that on the display, and I love it. The optical image stabilization for me is a very big point. On the 6, as you guys can see, the whole image starts to get really shaky and warped. You can definitely tell that it's less shaky on the 6 Plus. As for actual quality, exactly the same. So the iPhone 6 versus the 5S camera is a different story. The iPhone 6 has a better autofocus, sharper autofocus, and it records 1080p at 60 frames per second. The 5S is just not as good. However, that's not to say it isn't good. It's still a very great camera. So just take a look at the difference. This is the iPhone 6 Plus and the iPhone 5S right here. So as you guys can tell, the colors are a bit muted. They're more vibrant on the 6 Plus. Also, shake is more noticeable, obviously, on the 5S. It doesn't have that stabilizer. Aperture is exactly the same, so nighttime recording will look great on both devices. So the slow motion feature on the 6 Plus and 6 is where this phone just blew me away. It's capable of 240 frames per second video, whereas the 5S still has slow motion, but it's only at 120 frames per second. So I'm going to show you a clip I recorded in slow motion with both devices. There is a noticeable difference between the two, especially when you're filming stuff like animals or people jumping. It looks really, really cool. So you guys may be asking, is that $100 worth it when deciding between the 6 and the 5S, or that extra $100 when deciding between the 6 Plus and the 5S, or just the 6? Anyways, between these devices, battery life is a lot better on the 6 and 6 Plus. Camera is definitely better, and you get extra screen size and a higher resolution on the 6 Plus. So I personally think the iPhone 6 hits the sweet spot. It's right in the middle considering screen size, battery, and general usability. You're not sacrificing too much, so you're still going to be able to use the 6 with one hand without having it be too big like the 6 Plus. But of course, it's all a matter of preference. Between the 6 and 6 Plus, you're going to get less for that $100, but between the 5S and 6, you're going to get a big bang for your buck. So the iPhone 6 is a definite sweet spot. However, the iPhone 5S is still a very good performer. It hasn't been left in the dust by the new devices. It's still very capable. Well guys, that just about wraps it up. You can't go wrong with any of these devices, and hopefully I made clear the differences between the iPhone 6 Plus, 6, and 5S to help you make a better and more informed decision. Have a great day, guys. Peace.